Welcome back. It's day 2 of the playoffs. I mean, it's been about 6 days since the first playoff game has started, but we got two series today. We've got SoftBank Hawks Gaming, they need a better name, and V3 Esports, as well as later into the day, about 12 hours actually apart from each other, Team Liquid versus TSM. I won't be able to catch that other one live, but I will cover this one real quick and then be able to get another one out as soon as possible from when I can catch that other one. So, as I'm watching them all in order, what's going on? Well, my name is Sebastian. I usually have two other people around for talking with things, but I, unlike most people, watch every single playoff game before an international tournament goes through. And by every single one, I mean, yes, even that region. Yes, that region as well. All the regions participating in the international tournament in MSI, I'm going to watch their playoff games and do a quick cover about it instead of, the big long wall of text that I usually do. I covered last week Sengoku Gaming versus Crystal Gaming Act of the same region from Japan, and today, of the same bracket in the lower bracket, we have V3 Esports versus SoftBank Hawks Gaming, who I will now refer as SHG because that name is too long. And let's get right into it. Now, this game was much more, like this series particularly, was much closer. A couple of things that really struck with me is that both teams had great vision control, but only if they were on the blue side of the map. And I feel like that's going to be a real problem if that's consistent throughout. Second thing I noticed is that the region as a whole has a lot of priority over Thresh. Now, Japan, Thresh is cool and all, but like everyone else is looking at Rel like your priority over Thresh. What's happening? What's going on? I really want to understand, but like nothing about the way you guys have approached Thresh works for me. That aside, the nitty gritty of it all. Neither one of these teams are very samey within their picks and bans. They will have moments where they have like they'll immediately start banning things from the previous game that caused them trouble. Good, that's a nice start. Both of these teams are also much more willing to pick simpler compositions. The times that they picked something more complicated that required a lot more skill expression really depended on momentum. SHG on one hand, SHG on one hand, really had the momentum starting into the game. They have much better laners. They're much stronger. Their top laner, who despite losing consistently, plays very well on weak side. And I hearken to the day of Twitter where a lot of people were talking about how having a weak side top laner is not enough, though. And this was just the case. Appaman, kudos to you. Holy smokes, you're very good for your role in this region, especially when this region has not very many like standout top laners. Find a better team. I don't know. This team has like really good, like their mid laner Dasher has a like solid laning phase, but outside of laning phase, not so good. Their bot lane also solid laning phase. Outside of the laning phase, and you can see a lot of these issues when they start going into like transitions to late game shot calling. They start throwing more often when it comes to like Baron control, which is unfortunate because SoftBank, like the SHG, has incredibly solid Baron control, minus their game 5. They really look defeated in game 5. But they have very solid dragon control. And I don't know what happened. You'd think those would translate, but they rarely, if ever, never controlled Herald. Like they don't ever. Most of their game process, you can clearly tell, focuses on the bot side of that instead of the top side. And that bit them in the butt because over time, V3 was able to adapt slowly but surely. And V3 is nothing spectacular as a team. And a lot of you who watch international tournaments would recognize this. These were the representatives for Japan in the World Championships. that being said, they were lackluster. Their support player, Reyna, often roams from bot lane to mid lane almost on a timer between like 7 to 10 minutes for their early game, and then does nothing with it. Frequently caught out. There's some standout moments that Reyna has regarding like engages, but they're like 1 in a million. You have to do more than like, oh, I understand I need to roam. I understand I need to throw out engages. I understand that I need to look out for, because there's no. It seems like there is very little critical thought to the actions that are being brought out. More like I will see what they're doing, and then I will try to match. It's like they've done a lot of practice analyzing teams from better regions. What else is going on here? There's a couple of things that I like about V3. V3 are always willing to match compositions for team fighting. They pick simple compositions consistently throughout. They are prepared to like go ham when needed. They're better. They're the best team out of the 4 so far that I've watched that use minion wave pressure. Like, they actually use minion wave pressures. And that surprised me. Like, that really, really surprised me here. I was expecting most of them to just win out of fights. And, like, some of these games finished out that way, but a lot of these were desperation fights because V3 really had a strong grasp of what was needed to control SHG. And when they had no choice, well, they had no choice. I really hope that V3 it shows me that they're able to do the minion controls much more throughout the game. Like, they're able to use waves to set up better their objectives, because objective setups are clearly their weakness. If ever Sengoku is trying to punish them, you want to punish them using neutral objectives, because they don't approach them properly. They have this very gung-ho attitude where they'll clearly look that there's an objective and focus specifically on the fight itself, as opposed to the setup for the actual objective itself. And it bites them in the butt a lot. However, SHG, who was better at setting up dragons for reasons that blow my mind, really flubbed it up in Game 5. Like, picking bizarre fights. Both of these teams also pick bizarre fights. Like, they're really prepared to fight. Like, if one engages over the other, they'll immediately, like, 2 teleports every time. But you gotta pick your battles more. You don't have to fight. Like, there are times where a fight happens and then nothing results from it. It's like the solo queue attitude. Great, that really helps morale, but like, there needs to be more thought to it. V3's jungler, I'm gonna focus more on V3 now, mostly because SHG, I want to see you guys again next year. If you guys make it to, or not next year, but next playoff series for Worlds, if you make the next playoff series, fix up. Don't just ignore topside. Opamen's good. Use him more often. And get better at setting up for late game shot calling. Like, primarily focus on those 2 things. You might go super far in your region. I would love to see you guys again in the next playoffs. V3, however, you're really going to struggle against Sengoku. Like, you can't... I don't see you guys winning. And that's because, primarily, your jungler is a herbivore who does nothing for, like, how do you guys manage 5 games in a row to have a jungler that does nothing? No ganking, no setups, just reactions. Just reactions. And it's farming all the time. Come on. A backbone tussle. Like, Tussle and Mujin, you both need to just. So, Mujin, if you're going to want to make your team get to MSI, you need to show a little bit more backbone, show a little bit more coverage and ganks. I don't want to see this nonsense of just farming forever. Like, it's not going to help. I want to appreciate that V3 recognize specifically where the strengths of their opponent lie. They understand specifically, especially during their pick and ban, they understand which direction their other team wants to go. Either it's because they play them a lot in this region through like a whole bunch of stuff. It doesn't matter. Like the fact that you're able to recognize clearly and are able to absorb when necessary and don't like over-index in any particular way is very helpful long term. I mean, so long as your jungler also does something with it. I'm really going to harp on this, but just you can't like going to an international tournament. Having a herbivore jungler is really going to hinder you. Junglers can't just passively farm until whenever they need to do something for the rest of the map. You can't just depend on your laners, especially if your laners are lackluster. Execution-wise, however, V3 is pretty average. They don't do anything out of the way to mis-execute any of their compositions. Granted, a lot of their compositions are pretty simple. And you know what? For a region with this kind of like history result internationally, I'd rather teams focus on simple compositions. There's nothing wrong with it. So long as you make sure your simple compositions don't get outweighed one way or the other against a more complicated composition. But that's something that can be practiced over time. So I'm very happy that you're focusing on that, on making sure that you get simple compositions out. Neither of these teams are any good at vision denial. Nothing creative, nothing utilitarian, just they don't deny vision. Heck, they don't even defend vision very well. They'll like go in, place vision, someone comes in, they'll clear the ward, but they don't do anything to make sure that the vision doesn't come back. No one is denying any particular type of information. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing. It's like they're playing with like the fog of war gone, despite the fact that we know for sure they're not playing with the fog of war gone. Like neither of them are actually trying to do anything with like any information advantage, and it disappoints me, especially considering how like the rest of their league is likely going to abuse that. Now, I hope they do, because nothing indicates to me here that Sengoku or V3 are likely going to go very far. If they show me otherwise coming next week, or if the other two teams in Detonation, Focus Me, and what is it? Rascal Jesters. I've never seen this team before. Rascal Jesters show to be much weaker than I anticipate from this region. Then I feel really bad, because if this is the par or the above average of the region, they're not gonna do very good. In fact, I don't expect them to get higher than like the 12th to 10th place. That's really unfortunate, because Japan has regularly but steadily shown improvement over time. Those are most of my thoughts on it, unfortunately. If I was to give a grade to V3, I'd give them a C. Much like worse than Sengoku. Not like hugely so. If I was to predict a score between the two of the teams when they come in, I'd say Sengoku wins 3-1. But I don't have very much faith in either of these teams going through. Well, that's all I have for today. Let me know, all of you, in the comments down below what you think. If you have any hopes or faith for Japan when they go through into the international tournament. If there's any other regions that you think that might be doing worse. I want to know, is there any particular playoff series you're excited for? This is only the second one. We've got like loads more. I haven't gotten the chance to count them, but I'm pretty sure we have like 40 some odd playoff series minimum. So like, we got some time to go. And the next one, we're starting with North America, who's second to being the fastest one, with Team Liquid versus TSM, which I hear is super hype. I don't. It's not that I'm here. I know it's super hype. Leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe. And thank you again for watching. I will see you all next time.